The Lorain County Commissioners would like to welcome you to come down to the Lorain County Dog Kennel.
We have lots of dogs available for adoption. We also encourage all dog owners to register your dog each year and get a dog license.
We also have a special dog license. It's a special heart medical care license tag for an additional $5. And the proceeds from that go to help us when we pick up a stray that's injured or needs extreme medical care.
Welcome to another broadcast of the Lorain County Commissioners' General Meeting. Unless otherwise announced, meetings are held Thursday mornings at 9:30 at the Lorain County Administration Building, 226 Middle Avenue, 4th floor, downtown Elyria. These are public meetings, and as always, you are invited to attend.
Welcome to the January 19th Lorain County Board of Commissioners meeting. If you would stand for the pledge, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. There's the dog.
Oh, good looking dog.
Oh, sweetie, come here. Come on. She wants to go back with you. Choker collar, not a good idea.
Dying you, Jerry.
Hi, everybody. Oh, come here, baby. Come on. Come here. I don't want her to choke herself. There we go. Hi. Okay, today we have a Beagle mix up for adoption, available on the 21st. She's in cage 5. She was a stray found in North Ridgeville. And I don't know, Jack, are we still batting 1,000 today? We are still batting 1,000. So come on down to our Lorain County Dog Kennel and see if you can find a dog to take home with you. Thank you. Okay, we have public hearing at 10 o'clock, and we have some appointments. Teresa?
Amend the enterprise zone agreement with the City of Avon Lake and Poly One Corporation for tax exemption on tangible personal property and taxable fixed assets and inventory. Rebecca Jones is here.
Rebecca, would you like to speak on this issue?
Good morning, Commissioners. Rebecca Jones, Lorain County Community Development Department. We have with us this morning Sean Allen, who is the prosecutor for the City of Avon Lake, and we also have Tom Strick and Dennis Coco with Poly One in the audience today as well. Just to give you a brief overview, we are amending an enterprise zone agreement that was entered into in 2002 with the company. They are not putting in as much investment as they had initially planned, so we're amending it down to $10,700,000. And there will be 10 jobs created as part of this enterprise zone agreement. And I would ask that Mr. Allen come up and explain a little more in detail what is happening with this agreement.
Thank you, Rebecca. Good morning. I'm Sean Allen. I'm actually the Assistant Law Director, and I handle the tax abatement matters for the City of Avon Lake. Normally, Mayor Berner would be here. He was in Columbus yesterday, and I'm pinch hitting for him today. Poly One is a company located in Avon Lake, which you all know. It's one of our premier corporate citizens, and back in 2002, we entered into a EZA tax abatement agreement with them. And originally, the agreement contemplated Poly One bringing into Avon Lake two new components, a vinyl compounding component and an engineered materials component. And the abatement was granted on that basis. Because of economic conditions, there's been a delay in Poly One bringing the engineered materials component into Avon Lake. That component presently exists in Broadview Heights, Ohio. However, this is we've not given up on the engineered materials. They simply cannot do it under the timing in the agreement, so we need to amend it. We are still working on a plan to move the engineered materials component or that part of the process from Broadview Heights to Avon Lake. We just can't do it within the confines of this agreement, so we need to amend it. It's our expectation that that investment will eventually be made, but this slight amendment will give us the time frame we need to bring it to fruition. And if anyone has any questions, I'll be happy to answer them if I can, or Tom Strick from Avon or from Poly One is here as well.
Any questions?
No.
Commissioners? No. Thank you, Mr. Allen.
Thank you.
Do we need to make a motion?
Your recommendation, Rebecca, that we approve this?
Yes, our recommendation is that we approve this abatement.
I also move for approval.
Second?
Any further discussion? Ms. Blair?
Aye.
Ms. Kukowski?
Aye.
Mr. Kayla?
Aye.
At 9:45 is Mrs. Fisher, but she is here, so would you like to do her now?
Sure. Amber, you want to come up?
Good morning. I'm Amber Fisher, Superintendent of Murray Ridge Center, and I'd like to begin by thanking the County Commissioners for the opportunity to come today and to present a ballot issue recommendation on behalf of the Lorain County Board of Mental Retardation and Developmental Disabilities. Last December, each of you received a written recommendation that a 1.8 mil renewal levy be placed on the May 2006 ballot. And I've also appreciated the opportunity during the last year to meet with each of you individually to discuss the programs of Murray Ridge Center. To summarize the programs, in 2005, we provided critical early intervention services to 624 infants and toddlers with developmental delays. We operated a preschool program for children ages 3 to 5. At Murray Ridge School, we educated over 130 children ages 6 to 22 who were referred by the local school districts. These students are among those with the most severe disabilities and medical conditions in the county. Through our adult rehabilitation and vocational programs, we served 977 adults last year, with 733 adults attending our 3 workshop activity centers within Lorain County, and more than 240 individuals receiving assistance with vocational skills and work at community sites. Through the Family Support Program, Murray Ridge Center assisted 767 local families who live with and support a family member with developmental disabilities. Additionally, the board operates 6 8 to 18 bed group homes, and we fund and administer residential services at over 31 additional sites throughout the county. Currently, we have over 370 additional individuals waiting for residential supports through Murray Ridge Center, and we have over 75 adults in our program who are currently residing at home with parents and family caregivers over age 60. The recommendation for the renewal levy represents about 1/3 of Murray Ridge Center's funding. And because of the critical and ongoing nature of the needs that we address at Murray Ridge Center, the board is recommending that a continuing 1.8 mil levy be placed on the upcoming May ballot. I'd be happy to answer any questions about the programs at Murray Ridge Center or the need for the levy.
Yeah, Amber, you run a great operation over there. I really enjoyed it myself. Just in talking, I spoke with people from the metro parks and stuff like that. I don't know if a continuing levy, I'd like to recommend with the board and some discussion here and with you about a 10-year possibly, just so we have that public can still review and look at versus a continuing or perpetual levy. Is 10 years okay with you versus going just continuing?
Well, our board is recommending the continuing levy. Just a little background on that. I checked with our trade association, the Association of County Boards of MRDD, and 77 out of the 88 county boards of MRDD in Ohio do have at least one continuing levy on the ballot, or they've had for many years continuing levies. And at this time, it's our hope that there would be support for continuing funding. One of the issues at Murray Ridge Center is that the needs don't go away. We can't cure anyone in the program. And with this representing about 1/3 of our funding, we are hopeful that the commissioners and the citizens of Lorraine County will see that there's a critical base need being met.
Do you think there'll be any reaction if it's continuing or if it's timed out in the presentation of it's going to be a continuing levy?
Do I think there'll be any reaction
Yes.
locally?
Yeah, local reaction. What's your board think?
We're very hopeful that there will be support for a continuing term. There was recently a continuing 3.8 mil levy on the ballot in Cuyahoga County, and that was unprecedented for Cuyahoga County. That issue was supported at close to 70% by the citizens of Cuyahoga County.
Madam Chair, just a couple notes. The information provided by the auditor's office indicates that this 1.8 mil will provide approximately 10.6 million in income. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
And you do have 2 levies?
We do have 2 levies. There is a 1.69 mil levy that would be up for renewal in 2008.
2008. And then what is the overall operational cost
It's
for a year?
It's between $33 and $35 million a year.
Okay, and you said that this is 1/3 of the cost, so
This
that's a
is-
pretty expensive operation, 35 million.
Right, that's correct. And again, it's because of the broad scope of services that we deliver and the broad range of individuals, serving currently individuals ages 0 to 95.
Birth to death.
Birth to death, and many of these individuals require comprehensive care. We're fortunate in that many individuals and adults, even older adults, are residing at home with family members. But when those family members are gone or no longer able to provide care, the county board then needs to step in and provide generally comprehensive residential care. This is one of the issues that our board and all MRDD boards in Ohio are facing, is that many of the caregivers who have traditionally provided in-home care are aging. And as I mentioned earlier, we have looked at the demographics of our population. 75 individuals involved with our program are living at home with family caregivers who are over the age of 60. We do have over close to 300 individuals who, because of not having family, are receiving residential support. And once that begins due to the family's declining health, that's an ongoing commitment by the board.
You have a wonderful program.
Thank you.
It's many-faceted, and especially the workshops that you have, giving these individuals an opportunity to provide an income and the services that they provide. I can't say enough about what MRDD does for Lorraine County.
Yeah, it's a wonderful organization. Run a very good job out there.
Thank you.
Well, do we want to go perpetual or do we want to do a 10-year? Any discussion?
Well, I would just say that the board has asked for a continuing levy.
It would be up to them to sell it to the residents.
That's right.
It's ultimately up to the voters, so if that's what your board requests, I would make a motion to approve that.
I'll second that
Any
motion.
further discussion? Ms. Kukowski?
Aye.
Ms. Blair?
Aye.
Mr. Kayla?
Aye.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Under Resolutions, number 1, Job and Family Services bills.
So moved.
Second?
Discussion. Ms. Kukowski?
Aye.
Ms. Blair?
Aye.
Mr. Kayla?
Aye.
Investments.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. Ms. Kukowski?
Aye.
Mr. Kayla?
Aye.
Ms. Blair?
Aye.
Appropriations.
So moved.
Second?
Discussion. Ms. Kukowski?
Aye.
Ms. Blair?
Aye.
Mr. Kayla?
Aye.
Transfers.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. Ms. Kukowski?
Aye.
Mr. Kayla?
Aye.
Ms. Blair?
Aye.
No advances, I don't think.
No advances or repayments requisitions.
So moved.
I'd like to second, but exempting number 12206, the payout to
106?
122-06, the payout to the airport. I'd like to have some explanation of everything that went on with their last meeting in the newspapers. I was in Columbus. I didn't have a chance to find out exactly what happened. I spoke to a couple of the board members that we currently have, and I'd like to know a little bit more about their operations and needing the whole $151,500. So
So maybe we could have on the schedule to come in next week and explain it to us?
You can have anything you want, Commissioner.
I'd like to know what's going on out there, that's all. No offense to anybody, but half of the budget, they don't have any money, any big pay. I just have some concerns out there. I know it's been a contentious subject, but I still would like to know, so.
We get more information from the newspaper than we do from the airport.
So I would request it.
I'll second the motion with the exception that you have noted.
No, Ted had
I
seconded
gave it a
Lori's
second.
motion. I just wanted to know
Pardon
if
me.
Lori wanted to amend her to, with his exception.
That's fine.
Okay.
We'll listen to what the report
Yeah,
has
just
to
like
say.
know what's going on,
That's
that's
fine.
all.
Okay. Ms. Kowski?
Aye.
Mr. Kayla?
Aye.
Ms. Blair?
Aye.
Travel expenses.
So moved?
Second.
Discussion. Ms. Kowski?
Aye.
Ms. Blair?
Aye.
Mr. Kayla?
Aye.
Bills.
So moved?
Second.
Discussion. Ms. Kowski?
Aye.
Mr. Kayla?
Aye.
Ms. Blair?
Aye.
Under the Commissioners, authorize various personnel actions as indicated on the summary sheet for employees within jurisdiction of Lorraine County Commissioners.
Commissioners, I have a couple of personnel matters, specifically at least one new hire here and a couple at the county home I'd like to discuss, all permissible subjects under the Sunshine Law. And I think that Mr. Innes also, not to take away from you, but you have an issue of litigation that you want to update the board on. Plus, I think that Commissioner Kalo and I probably should update the board on how the litigation went yesterday in Columbus.
Okay.
Instruct the clerk to advertise for bids for the additions, alterations for Lorraine County Record Center. Publish notice in the Chronicle Telegram on January 23rd and 30th, and bids to be open at 2 p.m. on February 13, 2006.
So moved?
Second.
Discussion. Ms. Kowski?
Aye.
Mr. Kayla?
Aye.
Ms. Blair?
Aye.
Approve and implement a local participation program to encourage Lorraine County businesses to participate in the additions and alterations to Lorraine County Record Center.
So moved?
Second.
Discussion. Ms. Kowski?
Aye.
Ms. Blair?
Aye.
Mr. Kayla?
Aye.
Enact responsible contracting practices and best bid criteria procedures to be adhered to for awarding contracts for the additions and alterations to Lorraine County Record Center.
So moved?
Second.
Discussion. Ms. Kowski?
Aye.
Mr. Kayla?
Aye.
Ms. Blair?
Aye.
Award bids to Gordon Food Service and Cisco Foods for various food items to be supplied Lorraine County Golden Acres and CBCF, effective retroactive to January 1st, 2006 to December 31st, 2006.
So moved?
Second.
Discussion. Ms. Kowski?
Aye.
Ms. Blair?
Aye.
Mr. Kayla?
Aye.
Instruct clerk to advertise for bids for the administration building, 5th floor office alterations. Publish notice in Chronicle on January 23rd and 30th. Pre-bid on February 6th at 2 p.m. on the 5th floor, and bid open at 2 p.m. on February 13th.
So moved?
Second.
Discussion.
Yeah, Jim, I got a question for you. This is with our Lorraine County Growth Partnership. When do we think, with the bidding and the timeline, to have that actually up and running and the groups working out of here?
I'm hopeful that by the end of June and into July, that we'll be able to have some moves done. I'm happy to report that we're doing some of the work in-house through the maintenance department, and we've kind of bifurcated some of the processes on the 5th floor to save some money. Similar to what we're doing here on the 4th floor, while the build-out and the new construction is being handled by outside firms, I have been working aggressively with Mr. Shaver and Ms. Davis to carve out work on the older sections that we can do in-house, and thereby saving quite a bit of money. The area on the 5th floor that is just above us, that was the old domestic relations courts, was in pretty good shape. There's not a lot of build-out or changing or modification of walls and doors and so forth. So we're developing a in-house renovation process to have our folks go through and do repairing and patching and painting and lighting and ceiling tile replacement. That area mainly needs a good refreshing, and there's no reason why we can't do that work ourselves. And it's permitted work because we're not altering or changing any of the electrical or things like that that would require permits. It's just a freshening process. So some of that's underway already. The maintenance department went up and they were removing ceiling tiles and the lighting fixtures and things like that. So we already have work underway. I'm hopeful that we can coalesce both those processes and be done in June. It's an aggressive schedule, Commissioner. I don't want to mislead you. We're being very, very optimistic, and there's certain things along the way that we may not be able to predict. As you know, we have a huge amount of work going on the 5th floor right now, and I don't think many people realize that we're replacing the whole HVAC plant up there, and I think it's this weekend or next weekend, they're coming in with some big cranes and taking the water tower off the roof and replacing all of that. So we have a monstrous amount of work going on in this building, including those electrical upgrades that the board agreed to last year. They've been going on pretty seamlessly in the building too. So we have been quietly replacing a tremendous amount of infrastructure in this building,
Not to mention the windows.
not to mention all the windows, and what a dramatic change that
yeah.
was. It's like night and day. I can't believe and remembering that they originally wanted to pay almost $800,000 to replace the windows, we put our heads together and went back, and I got to thank Ms. Davis there too for her hard work, and we found a company that came in and repaired all our windows for $50,000. And we should get another 20 years out of those windows at least. So I'm very pleased with how that worked out and the tremendous amount of savings that we were able to achieve on behalf of the county. So a lot's going on. That was a short question, but a long answer, but sometimes we
usually
don't.
June or
are.
July, Jim? Is that what it is? June or July? Okay, thank you.
But sometimes we don't get a chance to talk about all the work that we're doing, so we have to take that opportunity. Thanks, Commissioner.
I should have said what month. You would have said June or July. We've been over.
Ms.
Where
Kowski.
were we?
Aye.
Mr. Kayla.
Aye.
Ms. Blair.
Aye.
I'm glad Teresa's keeping track of
Reappoint
it.
various members to the Lorraine County 911 Review Board for the year 2006.
So moved, but did we add Betty as a
Yes.
chairperson? Okay.
Yes.
So moved.
Second.
Ms. Kowski?
Aye.
Ms. Blair?
Aye.
Mr. Kayla?
Aye.
Approve and enter an agreement with ODOT for the Basco Bridge Lighting Project.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. Ms. Kowski?
Aye.
Mr. Kayla?
Aye.
Ms. Blair?
Aye.
Authorize Budget Department and Auditor's Office to create fund, Common Police Special Projects Fund. Said fund is created in accordance with ORC 2303.201E1. Funding will be derived from an additional fee charged on filing of each criminal case, civil action, or proceeding and/or judgment by confession.
And who gets the money from the fund?
I don't know.
I knew he was going to say that. Wow, we caught him.
For a moment, I thought that was that new fee that we were able to impose for the indigent attorney fee, but it doesn't look that way. It goes into the general fund revenue accounts, but it's probably controlled over at the courts. So Shelley is here, she can probably tell us.
Shelley Marrero, Budget Director. This fee is enacted by Common Pleas Court. They recently put a journal entry in, adding an additional $25 fee to each civil filing, is how that is going to work. That money is earmarked especially for individual special projects of the court, and it is operated by Common Pleas. There's a special revenue fund that is created by this resolution.
It's still a general fund revenue, but controlled by them, right?
No, it does not go into the general fund. It's a special revenue fund.
Do we have to bank it as revenue on our revenue projections, or is it outside of that?
Not as part of the general fund. We do have control over the appropriation, but the funding is mandated by code and is derived from just those special fees.
Did you just say that the commissioners would have control over the appropriation?
Well, the commissioners have control over all of the appropriation.
So well, they have certain accounts that the prosecutors and the sheriff have that we don't have any control over the appropriation. So so if the commissioners don't appropriate, there can be no expenditures, right?
Right.
Okay. So I guess at the end of the
Do
day,
Yeah, we still have control of the
Right.
fund.
Do we have any idea how much this is going to generate in a year's time? Do we have any forecast?
Mr. Luby did send over a document that stated about how many civil filings they have. I have that in my office. I can provide that for you after the meeting. I don't want to quote anything off the top of my head without having concrete numbers.
Thank you, Shelley.
Did I make a motion? No? So moved.
Second.
Ms. Kowski?
Aye.
Ms. Blair?
Aye.
Mr. Kayla?
Aye.
Under Solid Waste, approve the community grant funding request for the year 2006 to be paid from account recycled grants in the amount of $1,424,702.78 to be paid in 3 payments with the exception of the City of Avon and the Village of South Amherst, who are not participating.
Madam Chair, I do have a question. Why is Avon not participating? Mr. Billman, can you, I'm sorry.
Dan Billman, Solid Waste Director for the county. Good morning, Commissioners.
Morning, Dan.
The reason that Avon isn't participating is they did not submit a grant in the appropriate manner. Amherst, South Amherst now has not ever participated to this date, and we've been working with them, but they just came on board with the Blue Bag program last year, and they didn't even respond to us. But with the Avon thing, they did not submit the grant in a proper fashion, so we disallowed it.
Did you contact them to let them know that it wasn't filled out properly and give them an opportunity to refile it?
We've had numerous emails with them. We've talked to them several times on it. They refused to submit the correct document, so I had no alternative to leave them off.
Is there opportunity to amend this community grant funding after we take action on this?
That is always your prerogative, yes.
Thank you, Dan.
Commissioners, I think I sent you around a router a couple weeks ago indicating that there was a deficiency and asking you guys to advise us. I didn't receive anything back, and I did indicate, I think in that router, that later on you still had the ability to work cooperatively with Avon should you desire to do so. I would hope that we could gain their cooperation and look at their grant application in the future, because it doesn't do the community any good not to give them a grant based upon some technical defects in the application, although we really should require them and anybody to fill out the grant request the way we need it filled out before we fund them. But maybe I'll give Mayor Smith a call and ask him to rethink their position and reapply, if that's okay with the board.
Please do, yeah.
Beyond that, I would like to recommend that you do approve the appropriations as we have them now, and then if you want to, you can go back and do something else later on. But we need to get this funding going for the other communities that are participating, because they've been calling quite a bit. We're quite a ways behind, only because of the insistence of some of the communities that they get funded more than what the appropriations are. Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you, Dan.
I'll move to approve.
Second.
Ms. Kowski?
Aye.
Mr. Kayla?
Aye.
Ms. Blair?
Aye.
We'll go to the public hearing that's scheduled for 10 a.m. this morning on placing the perpetual, it should be the Village of Grafton, not LaGrange. That was a mistake. I don't know what I was doing. But perpetual maintenance on Alexander Ditch, Fiddler's Green subdivision, Village of Green. Late yesterday afternoon, I did receive a request from the Village of Grafton that the ditch cleaning agreement between the Village of Grafton and Lorraine County Engineers be tabled for 90 days. The 90th day would come up to be April 19th. If we back it up, which we would be meeting on April 12th that week, would be the 83rd day. And Mr. Maletti is here from the engineer's office if you have any further questions as to why
I would say we would just move it to that date then, table it until April, did you say April 19th? Continue the public hearing.
Fiddler's Green, Alexander Ditch,
Oh, who's asked for a continuance on this?
Village of Grafton.
You know, I called the engineer's office on this last week and asked them if there was any issue with Grafton, and I was told there wasn't any.
Correct. This was received yesterday from Village of Grafton Administrator Richard Kowalski.
Did he give a reason why he wants to continue?
Like I said, Wayne's here. I don't
Well,
know.
I mean...
I received this letter, and that's what I'm going by.
Wayne, do you want to respond to that?
Yeah, I'm just confused, because if they're asking for a continuance, you would think they would give us a reason for the continuance. I did specifically check on this last week to make sure it was going to go forward today. If they have, justification for the continuance, I would surely...
Well, I mean, in the letter dated back from Mr. Ken Carney, he did basically state back then, engineer's office does not feel that it will be able to dip this unless permit is obtained from the Corps of Engineers EPA, so maybe that would be the reason why they want to continue.
Once again, I checked with Mr. Carney myself last week, and he indicated that there was no problem with this issue.
Well, this was just received, and so...
But I think in order, if Grafton wanted to hold it up, I think they should give us a reason why they're doing it.
Mr. Maletti, do you have any knowledge
Yes,
about the
Wayne
reason?
Maletti, County Engineer's Office. The reason is to understand for how we're going to dip this ditch. So we got to get permission from the Army Corps. So the maintenance to continue from now is, what are we going to be required to do? Are we going to be allowed to dip this ditch or just mow it? That's the issue.
Well, I'll tell you what the issue was. I had communication with the property owners out there, and I contacted your office and was told by Mr. Carney that there was no problem with this application and everything was fine, and I communicated that with them. And now you're telling me that's not fine, so maybe you and Mr. Carney are not having a discussion on this.
As my understanding this morning was to be reviewed by the Army Corps, what we could do as maintenance on that ditch.
Okay, let me restate my position. I spoke to your boss on this, and he told me there was no problem with this.
Well, apparently, the problem lies with the Corps of Engineers. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yes.
Well, if that's the case, then we need to wait.
Well, I don't know why I waste my time checking on things then, when things are going to change 5 minutes before we're doing them.
Well, with
All
all
right?
due respect, there might be an issue that he found out after you checked with him.
I sincerely doubt that, Commissioner.
Mr. Cordez?
The Village of Grafton did request this ditch maintenance to begin with, so that's, the letter is from them.
That's fine, it's a village.
So do you
Madam
want to
Chair,
continue it until
I move that we
April 12th, or-
continue this hearing until April 12th.
I already did.
I second then.
Okay.
Sorry.
April 12th, 10 o'clock.
I try to
Well,
listen,
and that
I'm
meeting
sorry.
is going, well,
What are we gonna do?
that would be April 12th, which is a Wednesday. We're going to meet that week. We'll do
Okay.
that next week. Put them all together once I get okay from you guys.
Oh, okay, all right.
Meeting on Wednesday
Yeah,
rather
that
than
would be-
Thursday?
That would be April 12th.
You got a
With
time?
NOACA.
Do you have to have a time?
We'll do 10 o'clock
That's
again.
because of Good Friday,
Yes.
right?
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Ms. Kukowski?
Aye.
Ms. Blair?
Aye.
Mr. Kayla?
Yeah.
Engineers, accept the requested road standards for Township of Columbia, which will be placed in Lorraine County Engineer specifications and regulations for the subdivision developments.
So moved.
What number are we on?
19.
Second.
Discussion? Ms. Kowski?
Aye.
Ms. Blair?
Aye.
Mr. Kayla?
Aye.
Amendment Resolution 05817 adopted October 6, accepting on behalf of Eden Township trustees the improvements and enter into one-year maintenance agreement for Willow Creek subdivision number 1 and 2 in Eden Township. The developer was Rich Barron. This amendment is to reflect Willow Creek Lane with road number T287 extending southerly from Parkside Drive T286 is 1,323.66 feet, not 758.36 or 0.251 miles, rather than 0.114 to the southerly boundary line of Willow Creek number 2.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. Ms. Kowski?
Aye.
Mr. Kayla?
Aye.
Ms. Blair?
Aye.
Authorize the posting of load limit signs that state weight limit reduction by 25% on various county roads for the thaw and moisture period in accordance with ORC 5577.07, effective February 1st, 2006 through May 1st, 2006.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. Ms. Kukowski?
Aye.
Ms. Blair?
Aye.
Mr. Kayla?
Aye.
Authorize Lorraine County Engineer to proceed by forced account for normal and general maintenance and repair during the year 2006 on county roads for safety of the traveling public.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. Ms. Kowski?
Aye.
Mr. Kayla?
Aye.
Ms. Blair?
Aye.
Reappoint Commissioner Betty Blair and Lori Kukowski as OPWC District 9 Integrating Committee members effective May 23, 2006 through May 22, 2009.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. Ms. Kowski?
Aye.
Ms. Blair?
Aye.
Mr. Kayla?
Aye.
Under the prosecutor, enter the expert witness contract with Dr. Corwick and authorize the auditor to issue a warrant in the amount of $500 for the retainer.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion.
Wait 1 second. Mr. Cortez we're retaining him, but he's not actually going to start doing any of this work right away, is he? Because I'm hoping this case is going to get thrown out after this week.
1 second, Commissioner.
Number 25,
Pay
Jim.
attention, Mr. Cortez.
Yeah, I'm trying to look at the name. There's a lot of expert witnesses that we use in the prosecutor's office. It's a little bit unusual to get them beforehand. We usually get the bill while the case is ongoing. That's why I was reviewing what was written there. I can't tell you whether the work has been done or not, or whether there's already had communication. There may have been consultation already for the case that we need to pay for.
It's for the one I'm going for a deposition for today.
I understand.
Today?
Today.
But we probably already have had consultation and to develop a strategy for the case. Again, that's why I was looking at the wording here. I would assume that there are going to be some payments for that consultation to develop a position strategy with regard to the litigation. And there may be more in the future.
Okay. Do I have a second?
Yes, I did.
Okay.
Ms. Kukowski?
Aye.
Ms. Blair?
Aye.
Mr. Kayla?
Aye.
Under the Sheriff, receive, file, and forgive the unpaid fees from juvenile court by Lorraine County Sheriff's Office for the year 2006 in the amount of $47,777.10.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. Ms. Kowski?
Aye.
Mr. Kayla?
Aye.
Ms. Blair?
Aye.
Receive and file Lorraine County Sheriff's Annual Report in accordance with Ohio Revised Code 325.31 for all unpaid fees for more than 1 year prior to January 1st, 2006 in the amount of $666,410.05.
It's a lot of money.
Yeah, Madam Chair, I think I'd like to direct a question to Mr. Ennis. Is there any way that we can attempt to collect these outstanding fees? It's a pretty big chunk of change.
Certainly there is a way we can attempt to collect them. I think we have looked into those possibilities before. A lot of these are from sources that are probably uncollectible, though. You have...
Can't get blood out of a turnip.
Exactly. So, I mean, we can certainly look into it, and I think we have in the past. But we have to consider whether we're going to be spending more money chasing after them. And most of these are, fairly small amounts involving hundreds of people who are either no longer here, incarcerated someplace. So that's been the problem with it. It looks like a big amount, but that's the problems we face in trying to collect those. But we certainly can look into it and see if...
I think periodically it's wise for us just to review that. Would you be so kind in your spare time?
Okay,
Which you
we'll
have,
check with
not
the
a
Sheriff's
lot.
Department.
Thank you.
I need a motion.
I make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
Ms. Kowski?
Aye.
Ms. Blair?
Aye.
Mr. Kayla?
Aye.
Mr. Cortez, County Administrator?
Thank you. Commissioners, I'm sure you know, but just to set the record straight, the Chronicle reported yesterday that I missed the airport meeting. I did not miss the airport meeting. I was in Columbus on behalf of this board on a higher priority mission with regards to local government funds, and I was there with Mr. Kalo, who came down to observe the proceedings. I think it's very distressing when I tell the Chronicle where I am and they say I missed the meeting, and they knew full well that I was down in Columbus. It really, gives the taxpayers an idea that we don't care about what we're doing, and anything that's far from reality, and I was really disturbed by that. Other than that, I just want to remind you to action executive session this morning. Thank you.
Mr. Ennis, Assistant County Prosecutor?
I do have 2 issues of pending litigation that I would like to discuss with the Commissioners in executive session.
Commissioners report.
We had pulled requisition 12206 regarding the payout to the airport. I see Mr. Barth is in the audience now. Would the commissioners like to have some discussion on this today, since he's here?
Yeah, that's fine with me.
Mr. Barth, can you come to the microphone, please? Mr. Kalo, and would like to ask you a couple of questions.
Hey, Mike, how you doing this morning?
How's everybody doing?
Okay.
I was not aware what happened, pulled a requisition. I just heard you say that, I didn't know what happened.
12206, the payout, what was it, 150,000?
$51,000.
Okay.
Didn't know what that all went for. We called David O'Connor in our budget department. He said he wasn't aware of what those funds were for, or why it's lump sum now. Do we do it in a couple of payments through the years, where that money's expended to? Because I was talking with Sherry, who sits on the board. I haven't had a chance to talk to Ron yet. And Jim and I, like Jim said, we were in Columbus yesterday. What all happened, we get phone calls from, the press and everything about the contract, and all the money goes out, and a new contract, and wasn't sure what all happened in the last 2 or 3 weeks on the board, looking for some information, Mike.
Thank you for an opportunity to clear the air here on what's been going on. As you know, I submitted a budget to the commissioners back in October for $386,000, and we got $303,000. That was our budget for the year. Yeah, we got $303,000, and that's the commissioner's right to give us whatever they want to give us, and we appreciate whatever you give us. As a director, as a manager, I have to live within that budget, that's state law. Excuse me for a minute here. You gather my thoughts, I just walked in. I know there was an article in the Plain Dealer today, and I just want to clarify what happened. I came to this airport back in 1999, and there was an employment agreement, and I think Commissioner Blair was there, and my contract has been available to the public and to the commissioners since 1999. In that, called for a salary plus a payout of sick and vacation time, which is common, quite frankly.
Common in public sector.
It's common in public sector. Given what happened over the last years, and I got 34 years in, of PRS, and I'm eligible for retirement. Given what happened, and given the fact that a lawsuit was filed, and there's lawsuits were going, and I was named part of a third-party lawsuit, I retained an attorney, and the attorney wanted to sue the commissioner, and I says, no, we don't want to do that. What had transpired was a direct breach of my contract, and it was in my contract that it was a breach. My attorney and the authority's attorney negotiated to terminate my contract on December 31st and enter into 2 3-month agreements. I was going to leave on December 31st. We have a lot of activity going on at the airport. I wanted to stay, possibly helping the transition, do whatever. Given the response of the county that any contract or agreement that the authority had entered into was possibly null and void, I was concerned that the county was going to honor the terms of my contract. And that was the reason for terminating my contract December 31st and entering into 2 30-day options of contracts. That was the reason.
30-day or 3 months?
I'm sorry, 3-month, 90 days.
Okay, all right.
3-month, 90 days. That was the reason for doing that. I made it clear, even though it was a breach, I don't want a penny more than what I had coming to me. And that's exactly what I got. I am now working. I'm not earning any vacation or sick time.
Bring home bread and milk.
Like that rain.
Bring home bread and milk.
So I just wanted to clarify, what the Plain Dealer. I mean, there was nothing sinister done. I retained an attorney. They negotiated that. They terminated my contract December 31st, and I agreed to stay for 90 days to help in a transition or just get some of the things that Jim and I have been working on, get them going. Our ACIP, Airport Capital Improvement Program, has to be filed in the first quarter with the FAA. I wanted to see all those things through, quite frankly. And again, I just wasn't real sure what my future was going to be, given all that was going on.
Well, I've told you, once you stay run the airport.
Well, telling me and then filing what you file is 2 different things, quite frankly. As far as the budget, again, it was $380. I asked for $300. What we've been doing every year is writing a letter. Our expenses are a lot higher in the wintertime than they are in the summertime because of snow removal, overtime, de-icing materials, so on and so forth. The commissioners have always given me half of my budget up front and then spread the next out over the last 3 quarters monthly. And that's basically what the $150,000 was. It's half of my budget that I get up front. As far as the payout to me, that money was set aside 6 years ago. I submitted a budget to the county. They approved it. That money's been in escrow. It did not come out of my budget, out of the budget that you gave me that was reported. That did not come out of my budget. That money was set aside 6 years ago because the state told me, hey, county, you got this, hey, authority, you have this obligation. You have to set aside this money for when he retires. That money was set aside.
That's good to know.
So that's what we're asking. We don't know what's going on.
No, I'm not asking for anything more than for operating dollars for that airport.
Okay, that's all for operating, and that keeps the operations going.
That's to keep the operations, nothing more than that. No, it's not to pay me. That money was set aside. I asked for that money probably back in 2001 to the county, and they provided it. We set it aside.
Okay, that was when there was like a $620,000 total budget. What were you showing me, Sherry?
524 maybe.
524? Is that when you're showing me those big numbers originally on the paper? Yeah. Okay, all right. So a lot of that went to those type of things then, Mike?
Well, no, the state auditor came in and says, you have to set this money aside because you got this obligation. We
Okay,
set the
all
money
right.
aside.
So it just,
I have a question.
yeah, go ahead. That's what I'm trying to get, I'm trying to
You
learn.
know, I want to talk too.
Oh, well, I just had a question.
Well,
I said you couldn't talk.
No, but before you get the floor, I would like to comment. Am I- Sure. Mike, you made a comment about you have an employment contract that was available, and you made reference to me and my
Well, the night I was
term here.
hired, you were there.
I've never seen your employment contract, so I have no idea what the terms of the contract were, or what was in it. I've never seen it. I just want to make that
Okay.
statement. And then I want to say, Jim was a little bit upset because he was at a meeting officially yesterday, and the Chronicle kind of reported him as just not available. I was available. I was in my office till 5:30. I received no call from the Chronicle asking me to respond. However, the reporter said that I was unavailable for comment. I commented to the Plain Dealer. I was available to comment to them. And then I want to just say that the appropriation from the commissioners this year was $303,000, the same amount that you got last year. And we've cut a lot of other departments and asked them to slim and trim. And I realize that you are not responsible for how items are reported in the newspaper. But the one comment, it says county commissioners approved just $303,000. That's a pretty big chunk of change as far as I'm concerned. That's the end of my comments for now. I apologize, Mr. Cortez.
Well, let me amplify that. The word arbitrary has arbitrarily left your lips many times, and it should never leave your lips. Nobody arbitrarily slashed your budget, okay? Every county department was frozen. You and I have debated this for a long time, okay? You really have, some nerve talking about what was arbitrarily done and what wasn't arbitrarily done, all right? Just because you don't get what you want, you have a way of getting out in front of those issues and then later on coming in smooth as silk and denying that. And I'm just fed up with it, okay? And you and I should have had some discussion on these contract things in December. You continue to tell Commissioner Kokoski that we're going to work cooperatively together, and you continue to do all kinds of other things without talking to nobody, period. It always happens that way. It's an ongoing way that the airport's done their business, and it seems like it's continuing. As far as escrow goes, do you have money for all your other employees in escrow to pay out their sick time and
I'm just
vacation?
telling you
Because you
what
are required under the Ohio Revised Code to pay those things. And I bet you don't have that money in escrow, do you?
Jim, members of the board, I was told, because there's an employment contract.
Do you have that in
put
writing from the
money
state orders?
aside.
Do you have it in writing from the state
I
orders?
don't know if I have it in writing,
Well,
but here's
I'm
the other
asking-
thing, Jim. and
yes
I
or
wanna
no, do
argue
you
with
have it in
Jim.
writing
This
from
is
the
not
state
One at a
This is
time.
not the place to argue in public, okay?
It is the
We
place
can
to
have
argue in public, just a
discussion.
public issue. Do you
I
have
was
it in
told
writing
to
from the
set
state
the money
orders?
aside, and I submitted it in a budget back in 2000 and 2001 that this board approved.
The order, there's a state order that puts their requirements in writing. Do you have it in writing from the state orders that money had to be placed in escrow?
I don't know. I could go look.
Well, I would
But
appreciate
I
if you go
remember
look,
it,
and I appreciate if you would report back.
We put it in public. I mean, not,
I'm asked,
excuse me,
but-
we put it in escrow, and you gave us the money to put in escrow.
Well-
It was submitted in writing, a budget. Did you approve?
I'm asking you to have a requirement from the state orders to put that money in escrow, and if you put the same amount of money in to meet the obligations of other employees that have been accumulating benefits, since that is a requirement under the state orders.
No, I do not. No, I did not, because there was an employment contract with me.
But
The
you're still
other
required-
employees do not have employment contracts.
But you're still required under the Ohio Revised Code to cash out sick and vacation time accumulated from those employees. I would think with consistency that the state orders would also require an escrow account for those employees who are accumulating balances at the end of the year so that you don't have an unfunded obligation. I would suggest that those things need to be consistent, and I would like to see some finding from the state auditor's office or some managerial letter of recommendation, which is the way they do their business, stating that those things needed to be done.
Mr. Chairman, I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman and Mr. Cortez, thinking back, it was either our accountant, and I will get something in writing to you, it was either our accountant or the auditor that told me that. This was back in 2001, but I know I was told we had to set that money aside.
Well, that's what I was asking. I don't know where that money came from, and we don't know
It
the reasons being.
was,
That's why.
it came from you, because I budgeted for it in 2001 when it was either, again, it's going back 6 years, it was either the auditor or our accountants, they says, you have to set that money aside. I came to you, and it was a line item in our budget, and it was given to me by, not you,
By the
but
prior board.
by the commissioners at
That's why
that
I was in-
time.
Well, Mike,
And
that's why I
it's
was in
been sitting
Columbus
there.
yesterday.
It's
I
been
went
sitting
down for things that are happening during myself and Commissioner Kukowski's term that we had nothing to do with in the past, but ended up on our desk, so we're asking for information.
I guess what I'm saying, Commissioner, is that money did not come out of our operating money. That money was set aside 5 or 6 years ago, and it's been sitting there.
So this 151.5 that you are asking for,
This is operating.
both, that is for operating.
Strictly operating.
And this is how we've done it year after year because
Year
of
after
the expenses in the wintertime.
Right,
So,
or much higher.
We've always done that, Commissioner.
okay, so that was the issue
Yes.
that we were supposed to be talking about. We got the clarification of the payout, so I think I'd like to just, can we bring that back up on requisitions and pass that? I'd make a motion that we pass 122.06 for the airport. Do I have a second?
You were the one that raised the questions.
Okay.
Are you satisfied with the answer?
Yeah, I just need to know what it was for operating or not. When things
It's
happen, like I said,
strictly
just,
operating.
I would like some communications. We're still working on it, know what's going on. It just surprised your reporter's calling, you have no clue what's going on.
Well, I
That's
sent a
what I'm
letter
asking.
that why I needed the 150,000.
I know that, but then we saw the thing with the contract and the payout and where the money come
That-
from.
that money was-
Well, see,
it's
those are
been there
things
for
we don't
5
know.
years.
We are not aware of it, and
Yeah, so I'm glad I came to answer any questions and clear the air. And Mr. Chairman, members of the board, and Jim, and everybody else in Lorraine County, I came here under some controversy, and Betty, you were there that night.
I was
My guess
there.
is you remember that.
I certainly do.
It looks like I'm going to be leaving under some controversy, but I can tell you that the people in Lorraine County, including the commissioners, the public officials, and especially the people of Oberlin and New Russia, and just the citizens of Lorraine County, have been great to me and this airport. And I really feel we accomplished a lot in the 6 years. You know, we brought $7 million into this county, and we've done a lot of good things. And I wouldn't have been able to do it without the support of the commissioners. I'd be the first one to say that, okay? But like I said, I have 34 years in. I had to protect my future and what was rightfully mine. Given all that was going on, I wasn't sure that the county was going to honor the terms of my agreement, okay? And I had to do what I had to do to protect myself. But, you know, I thoroughly, absolutely enjoy being here in Lorraine and serving the citizens of Lorraine County. I really do. And I could say that from the bottom of my heart. And anybody that uses that airport will tell you it's a better airport now than it was 7 years ago.
Commissioners, Mr. Ennis wants to speak to the contract issue.
I think that's an excellent idea.
Commissioner, I thought I would clarify some of the things regarding the lawsuit because there have been things in the newspaper and some of the things Mr. Barth mentioned suggesting that the county would be trying to get out of all the obligations of the airport. First of all, I would mention that I have talked with Mr. Barth when this started, and I met with the employees at the airport board and indicated that none of the actions that the commissioners took were with the intent to cut or get rid of any of the employees out there. We did not sue Mr. Barth. We did not sue any of the parties contracting with the airport authority. The airport authority named those parties in lawsuit and brought in allegations that suggested that we might not be honoring those. The county did not do that. As a result of them bringing in all these other authorities and all these other obligees, they filed counterclaims in which they made a number of allegations, and basically it gets at what one of the problems that has been going on is. We have the airport authority entering into long-term contracts. They have contracts that are 20, 40, 80, some of them are even perpetual contracts, and they have little or no funding to support those contracts. Those parties are now coming back and saying the county is liable on all those contracts. And our pleadings respond that the airport authority cannot obligate the Board of County Commissioners. That is the only liability we have denied. We have not said that should we take over the airport, we would not honor those contracts, including Mr. Barr's contracts. So I think it's important to understand the county has not sued anybody saying we would not honor these contracts. We are responding to counterclaims that are being filed against us, again, which are saying basically anything the airport enters into, the county commissioners are liable for. And it's those kinds of allegations, those kinds of concerns that have put the commissioners in the predicament they are. We are having an authority which has no funding or little funding of its own, and we have people out there saying they are obligating the county's general fund. And as I said, some of these go on for 40, 80, perpetual, and that is a situation that obviously raises some concern to the county.
The commissioners also, you know, when the airport director tells the newspaper, and I'm sure he did tell them this, that I don't know what to tell these people because I don't know what's going on. It's very disturbing because we've been trying to open up the lines of communication and have that dialogue. And Madam President, you and I personally have tried to do that back and forth, and it's those kind of statements that cause uncertainty and confusion out there. There's a way of dealing with the issue and trying to move it forward. There's a way of stirring the chaos. And I would suggest that the chaos is continuing to be stirred. And you were at the airport meeting in December, and you have been actively going to the airport meetings in December. Were you aware of all these contract issues, Commissioner, or were they done after you left?
I was aware of the 90-day renewable
Right.
twice, but I wasn't aware of the payout.
Yeah, and so that happened after you were gone, after you had left the meeting.
It was an executive session.
You know, I don't know why we're not having dialogue on these things. I thought we had reinvigorated our discussions of cooperation in September and October, and at your bequest, to work on these things, and then we just sit here and we hear them through the newspaper.
That's what's disconcerting, Jim, is you get hit with this phone call and you have no clue what's actually going on, and that's...
And you provide the bulk of the funding for this operation. Let me point that out. And then when I hear that we can't afford to pay the employees next year and we arbitrarily slash the budget, I want to know how they paid the employees last year. Mr. Boss, right here, I want to ask the questions right now. I don't want to not have those questions answered. I think we need to answer them right now. It's been in the public. They paid the employees last year with the money we gave them. I know some gas has gone up and some electric's gone up. It's gone up for us. Every county department was frozen last year because we passed a budget just for our operating budget that was $2.8 million in the red. Because I convinced you guys that we could cover that $2.8 million. That does not count the external operations that we're funding. All right, those are another drag down. Those are in addition to the $2.8 million in the red. How can anybody that gets such a large allowance from the board go around and say we arbitrarily slashed their budget? They're not even a mandatory operating fund within the county's general fund. It's at your goodwill that you survived them, but you are arbitrary in slashing their budget. Okay, it is uncertain. They don't know what's going on. How did they survive last year with that allocation?
And they have one employee less.
And they have one employee less, Commissioners. I would suggest that there's a lot of manipulation and positioning going on here, and a lot of PR going to the paper, and a lot of spin going on. And I want to know, Mr. Boss standing here right now, I want to know.
What's your question again, Jim?
Whichever one you care to answer.
Well, start with one at a time. First question.
How did you survive last year on the same budget with one less person?
Basically, juggling balls in the air, sharpening my pencil. We sold some of our equipment, our old equipment, on eBay. We had money from the sale of assets when we took over the purchase of the FBO. We used some of that. We received 3 years ago an extra $100,000. We didn't spend all of that. Basically just managing, but the bottom line is we look very hard at it, and we're going to run out of money. As long as I'm here, we're going to run out of money in the end of October, or the last quarter of this year. I don't know exactly when, depending on what our expenses are. But, you know, personnel is probably 70-75% of our payroll, okay? I got 4 employees, 5 employees, and a part-time employee. So there's really nowhere to slash. I'm not going to compromise safety and security at the airport. So personnel is the only place I could slash. As a manager, and Jim knows this, you have to stay within a budget. Whatever you give me, I appreciate, and you're telling me to work within that budget. That's what I'm going to do.
What's the possibility of raising the revenue generated at the airport?
It's pretty difficult. I mean, Jerry alluded to the fact the lease arrangements, those are long-term lease arrangements. They're the revenues. and all of those except one was entered into before I got there. The only lease that I was involved in was the Johnson Aviation lease, which is pretty good lease for the airport and the county. So again, just how did I balance, Jim? The answer is, we had a couple windfalls, and we had some money left over from the early years, and we were just been able to balance it. But as I look now and project out, we're going to run out of money towards the end of the year.
There's no more carryover, additional carryover?
No, that's it.
What was your other question, Jim?
Well, I'm still not satisfied with the answer there. So you're telling me that you can't sharpen your pencil anymore, and that you can't juggle the balls in the air anymore, that you've come to the end of the line?
Yeah, we come to the end of the line, Jim, and like I said, personnel is a big part of it, and the only way I could balance the budget this year with the $303,000 is to, leave. I mean, basically, you could. There's other things you could do, and I'd be happy to sit down and talk to you in the last few months and try and chart out a course for the airport.
I'd rather see the spreadsheets on how the budget was supported last year, on what you juggled and where you sharpened the pencil and what
we'll
resources.
Give you that.
Yeah, I'm asking
We'll
for
provide that for you, how we managed over the last 3 out of the 4 years.
I'm just asking for last year.
We'll give that to you.
And also, I want to see if you have that letter ruling from the auditors on the escrow account, and how you plan on handling the liability, the balances of the current employees, and what you've done with that. So I'd like to see that. And with regard to continued operations, you said that I won't compromise safety, so I guess you think it's safer not to have an executive director, but have employees that aren't directed. I don't understand that statement.
Well, what I meant, I'm not going to compromise buying the icing material for the airport and maintaining the trucks and those kind of things. That's a part of the budget as well. And there's nowhere to cut on that.
I understand. That I can respect that. But you said you had 4 or 5 staff. Apparently, you think that we can do without a director of the airport, but we should keep those other staff. I'm a bit confused by that.
The thing is, Jim, like you said in the paper, you could always, there's somebody out there, you could find somebody cheaper. I mean, there's thing you could do. You've always said you had deep pockets, and you could buy your way out of things. That's what you told me.
Absolutely.
So I agree with that. So I mean, there's other things you could do. You could hire somebody part-time. You could do anything you want to do.
I understand that, but your position that you purported to the newspapers was that there wasn't going to be enough money to pay the director, and that that was what the issue was. My question is that you considered laying off other staff members besides not funding the director's position. And by the way, I didn't say we needed somebody cheaper or less expensive. I've never said that. Okay.
Well, no, I'm saying you could hire somebody less expensive.
Just for clarification purposes.
Okay. No, I said that you could hire somebody less expensive. I'm a luxury.
Well, I don't think you're a luxury.
I brought you $7 or $8 million too.
But the issue comes down to, have you considered early in this year, before we get to a crisis point, of reducing some of your staff out there? Have you considered that? Because I believe we need a director out there. All right, whether it be you or somebody else. Have you done that? Have you prepared for that? Because there's also run-out costs associated with a reduction if it needs to be done, i.e. unemployment and so forth. And we can't wait until October to do that. Have those things been explored?
Mr. Chairman and Ms. Cortez, yes, they have. There's 2 maintenance guys. There's a maintenance supervisor and a maintenance man that maintain 1,100 or 1,200 acres, and there's 1 business manager there, and a part-time maintenance guy. So there's nobody there to cut.
You saw the motion on the floor, Teresa?
We do.
I'll give it the second for the operations.
Any further discussion? Ms. Kukowski?
Aye.
Mr. Kayla?
Aye.
Ms. Blair?
Aye.
Gosh, where are
Commissioner,
we?
may I add
Oh,
one?
Yes.
I just wanted to add one other thing. Pursuant to the original agreement, which was entered to form the airport, the commissioner's obligation was, or commitment was $200,000. So we are actually paying $100,000 over what the commissioners committed to fund the airport. The shortage comes from the fact that the 2 other partners to the agreement have opted out altogether. So I think it should be clarified, the commissioners are paying $100,000 over what the original agreement committed on behalf of this board.
And we also paid more than that because we applied money to grants last year and the years before that. I think that I just want to make sure I understood what Mr. Ennis said. The whole idea of the contract and us trying to get out of liabilities was generated by the airport authority. And we didn't do that. So the rationale and reasoning behind the events that occurred, we didn't do. They would like to position themselves as they responded to something we did. No, they did not respond to something we did. Those events did not have to occur. We didn't do that. And it's been reported in 2 major newspapers now that we did that. We did not. The airport positioned themselves where they wanted to be positioned to accomplish certain things that they wanted to accomplish. And then they wanted to say they had to do it because of what we were doing. That is not factually or legally correct.
Mr. Chairman, may I comment on that? I'm not an attorney, and again, it's unfortunate we got to get in these discussions here.
Actually, Ms. Kowski's chairman of the board. She's
Oh,
the president, actually.
I'm sorry.
That's okay.
You were sitting in the middle there.
Lori, yeah, I've been
Between
here
2
forever.
beautiful women. There
Yeah, I'm
you
the
go.
thorn between 2 roses.
Yeah.
That's
Mr. Chairman, when the lawsuit was filed, the tenants came to us with their attorneys, and they were going to file 9 individual lawsuits. Okay? Our attorney, Paul Blevins, talked to them and just decided to consolidate it all because, as you know, the county filed to take over the assets of the airport. The liabilities were not included, including my contract and all the contracts. The tenants of the airport, and anybody who was at that meeting yesterday heard that. They were a little bit concerned about that because their agreements and contracts were not included in the lawsuit. That was the only thing that I think Mr. Blevins asked to do, was include the liabilities of the airport into the lawsuit.
That's a bunch of legal stuff.
Yeah, I agree with you, but I mean, that's my
There's no
understanding of
attorneys
it.
I think you need to repeat what you said, Jerry, because I think that's very important to the issue at hand, and that's why it's taken us so long to resolve this issue.
The action filed by the commissioners was an action to take over the assets of and the operations of the airport. There is nothing in the pleadings that we indicated that we would not be assuming the liabilities. As the result of the bringing all the contractors in and the counterclaims they made, in which they made some allegations about the liabilities of the commissioners, we denied some of those allegations, but we have at no time stated that we will not honor the legal obligations of the airport.
And Commissioners, let me close with this. I was an airport board member in December. You appointed me in November, and I received nothing on all the things that transpired in December. I didn't go to the December meeting, but I didn't receive anything prior to that meeting that told me all these events were going on, and I was an airport board member by that time. And I had nothing, zero, nada, on anything that was going on with his contract or cash outs or anything else.
Either before or after.
Correct. And that let's leave it there, okay?
Yeah, I'll leave it there.
Yeah,
I'll
please
leave it
do.
there.
Yeah.
I'll leave it there.
If I may, Commissioner, I think the problem is people are confusing what the current situation is with the liabilities, the commissioner's responsibilities for liabilities of the airport over what it would be if we take it over. And our responses were that we are not now liable for the airport's liabilities. That was what our answer was.
It'll all play out in time.
Well, I think it was good that we aired some of this out, and hopefully the general public and the newspapers can decipher what actually has transpired up until this point. Ted, do you have a report that you'd like to give?
Oh, yeah, sure. It's been a busy week. Yeah, thank you, Michael, for explaining what the 151 was, too. Thanks for coming up here. I took the opportunity this week, as I was speaking before, that issues that have happened in the past prior to being a county commissioner keep ending up on our desk. And there's a lot of background work in trying to figure out what actually happened when we're included in all these actions now. So I took the opportunity to go down, Mr. Ennis, Mr. Cordez, a slew of elected officials and attorneys from Lorraine County who are all battling over the alternate formula issues from 2003, and the City of Lorraine's move to change their allocations and the county's participation. So I spent the day sitting in the hearing room in the Board of Tax Appeals all day yesterday listening to everybody's side. It was quite interesting to find out how things happened starting in 2003 and where they're now sitting at today, and they're still not all worked out, and no participation, and elected officials who were into it their first year, and people have been here. So it was very interesting. I'll fill the commissioners in on the legalese end of it when we get into executive session. But yeah, quite busy in Columbus. So.
Miss Betty? Thank you, Lori. We were at the NOACA meeting last Friday, and just two things of interest generally to Lorraine County. There is a draft list of earmarks for our county. That's where our representatives have been able to solicit set-asides, and the total is $3.7 million for Lorraine County projects. And also under NOACA business, we approved applications to the Coastal Management for grants totaling $555,000 for 3 projects. The Lorraine Port Authority for their dike site, the City of Lorraine for their wastewater treatment plant relocation, and the Lorraine County Community Development Department for Beaver Creek. And Miss Rebecca from the Lorraine County Community Alliance, I think you want to tell us about our upcoming meeting at the former St. Joe's.
Good morning, Commissioners. Rebecca Gray, Lorraine County, Lorraine County Community Alliance. I just wanted to announce the upcoming meeting is on February 3rd. It's at Gold Auditorium at St. Joe's Center in Lorraine. One of the topics that we'll be discussing is all of Lorraine's comprehensive efforts at revitalization, not only on the waterfront, but downtown as well. I think there'll be a lot of great information from their community development department that we can share with one another that can be used in other areas. And also parking is available off of West 21st Street in the garage. Thank you.
Thank you, Rebecca.
That will be at 9 a.m.
Thank you. Okay. We have a vested interest in former St. Joe's. We're a partner there, so we want South Shore Community Development, of which Mr. Cortez is a board member. President this year. Does that mean you're going to spring for lunch? Oh, well,
You're doing a very good job, or nobody else wants it, Jim. That's why it's your third year.
You're so kind.
Does that complete your report, Betty?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair.
Teresa?
No report. Board correspondence?
I'll move the reading be waived. I beat you.
Yeah, you did. Second.
Discussion. Ms. Blair?
Aye.
Ms. Kowski?
Aye.
Mr. Kayla?
Aye.
Public comment?
Anybody in the audience wishing to speak? No? Boy, you're quick. Go ahead, David. Looked up and there he was.
I just started walking up here. Good morning, Commissioners. David Ashenhurst of Oberlin. I was going to ask a question for now, but actually, now that things have gone on a little bit, it actually is probably more appropriate to ask if perhaps at the next Commissioners meeting, concerning items 10, 11, and 12, that a local participation program is being approved and implemented to encourage Lorraine County businesses to participate in the additions and alterations to Lorraine County Record Center, and that responsible contracting practices and best bid criteria are being looked at there. I wonder if we couldn't get just a little more explanation of what that is, and rather than sort of put it on anybody now to explain those things, ask if, because the bids are to be in by February 13th, it wouldn't be appropriate just to have a little update on where the local participation programs are for benefit of people on that particular item, but on other items going forward.
Mr. Cortez will respond to that for you, David.
Just swallow my Rolade.
Oh.
It was a little intense a few minutes ago.
Can't imagine why.
Let me explain the local participation first, if I may. We had a lot of
next time?
No, I can do it right now for you.
Okay.
We had a lot of good participation locally on the Justice Center when we had a similar program. We've been looking to try to have additional programs, but a lot of our bid work has been kind of small, and it's really hard to do local participations on anything less than $1 million. And it looks like the Record Center is going to be around $1 million, maybe a little bit over $1 million. And we thought that it was a size enough that we may be able to encourage some of our locals to get involved. They sometimes have a hard time competing with some of the some of the bigger vendors. But we have to be careful that we don't lose the competitive edge of the bidding process. So we look at areas that there's a lot of potential bidders in Lorraine County. I'll give you an example. We have quite a bit of landscaping going on around the Gateway building. As you know, it's a kind of drab building right now. It really just an old schoolhouse sitting there. And as part of the renovation, we're going to do extensive landscaping and streetscape changes along the front of the building and move the direction of the building towards the back corner where it's always been, but it's never appeared to be the front of the building back there. It's always appeared to be a side door, and we're going to redirect the flow of the building back there. That landscaping and irrigation can all be done in Lorraine County. There's a ton of local contractors, and I would be very saddened to see somebody from a different county or even different state come in here and gain that work when we have locals here that need to have work here to provide jobs and opportunities here in Lorraine County. And those are the kind of set-asides we're looking at, but we have to be careful that we don't have so much that we lose the competitive edge and gain the best outcome for the public in this project. What's specific to the exactness of which ones are set aside, we can provide that at the end of the meeting, and anybody that wants it to be in the bid documents. Ms. Davis has that list.
Is there going to be a bidders conference on this?
There will always in the future be a required bidders conference. For every bid we've done, the board has decided, since we've had some problems before, that we don't want to waiver the conferences anymore. I believe that was your direction. Last time we had some issues with these bids here. So yes, there will be a bidders conference, and it'll be explained there what's available. Plus, we've always had the 3% rule with regards to local participation. It's up to $10,000. So bids around the $300,000 range, the local vendors have a 3% competitive edge to try to gain our business, and that's still part of this. But that was always available. That was a policy adopted by the board some time ago for any bids that we do. So that's nice for the locals to use.
And I appreciate this also as a councilman now who's hearing from people and going through processes in Oberlin where I say, well, we're not going to get it all within the city limits, but to the extent that we can participate in county business in both directions,
sure,
that our work, to the extent possible, if it's got to go out of Oberlin, at least doesn't go out of the county.
Yeah, at least at least if we make some efforts, that's what people really ask for. They ask for the effort, not usually the outcome. But it should be. If it's for you, it's Oberlin, then Lorraine County, then Northeast Ohio, then Ohio. These are all things we need to look at very strongly here. I will say that these have been problematic programs before, but the board has chosen to be on the edge with this and continue to have these because they believe it's in the best interest of the community. Obviously, unsuccessful bidders from contiguous counties are always upset with us and always trying to take issues with these programs. As far as responsible bidder language goes, those are things like drug-free workplace and requirements like that, and how their workforce is constructed so that we can be assured that we're getting the very finest craftsmanship and workers to provide the work that we're asking for in the Record Center. And we've had responsible bidder language in all of our large projects before, and on the Justice Center also. And it's something that is supported by the trades, and we've been able to do that, especially with the new best practices languages and things like that.
Thank you. I hope we go local on biodiesel one of these days, too.
Well, I told you I attended that, and it's something that's on my docket. I just need to spend some time getting to it.
Thank you.
Okay.
Ron Twining.
Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Ron Twining, and on behalf of the Board of Commissioners and County Administrator Jim Cordez, we will be putting out a press release to the media this afternoon as soon as this meeting's over. I would like to announce for the people here in attendance today and your viewing audience that in January of 2005, we put in an application for a foreign trade zone in parts in Elyria and part of North Ridgeville. On December 21st, by order number 1429, the U.S. Department of Commerce Foreign Trade Zone Board approved that foreign trade zone, and it is for 448 acres of industrial zone property called Taylorwood Commercial Park. Again, it's located both in Elyria and North Ridgeville. This will allow the companies, and the 3 companies that are directly affected in part of our application last January include Invacare Corporation, Bendix, and Beckett Corporation. We had great cooperation from the school districts that are affected as well as the cities, and we wanted to share that information with the commissioners, and we will be sending out a press release to, I think there are 14 different media outlets that we will send that to today.
Good
Thank
job.
you, Ron.
Good job.
Hello, Elizabeth.
Elizabeth Rummix, Oberlin. A couple of things. I, too, was going to ask for a little bit more information about number 11. Number 11? Yes. I simply didn't understand what local participation meant, but now, of course, I do. Thank you very much. Also, number 10 and 14, I noticed that it's the Chronicle Telegram that is to place the advertisement, and I think I remembered that there was a ruling to alternate between the 2 newspapers. I was just curious about that. We don't want the Journal to get left
Teresa,
out.
you flipping them back and forth?
Yes, I am. I think because these came in the same time, they were ready to schedule on the Chronicle, and that's why we did it. I mean, next week, next time we'll have the Journal. Yeah.
I was just curious about that. Then, not, I hope, to pour oil on a fire. Perhaps it'll just be water and everybody will have no problem with it. Given our present federal government, more specifically administration, sometimes what is not said is very interesting. And as a layperson who has absolutely no legal background and very little understanding as well, I simply wonder if the fact that the lawsuit says that at this point the county has no responsibility, takes on no liabilities, is that absence of anything about the future of any significance?
Did you want to respond to that, Jerry?
Potential significance,
Could you just
i.e.
repeat
worry
that?
creating.
I didn't catch the last part of that, Elizabeth. Said,
I believe what was said, what you said quite clearly is that the county will take over assets. Nothing is said that they wouldn't take over liabilities. And then I think you went on to say that the county is not now liable. And as I say, what, if anything, does not mentioning anything about after the county takes over? Is that of any significance, or is this just commonplace?
well, those, what the county's responsibilities for the liabilities of the airport are the issues that are being raised now, and those will be addressed. And we're now going to federal court on the matter. But it had been our original hope that we would sit down with all the parties once we gathered the information as to what all the liabilities were, work out an agreed journal entry, and be done with the case in that manner. And that was what our intentions were. Now that all these counterclaims are going back and forth, and what happens when you have these pleadings is they're very general in nature, and there are a number of general allegations being made. And what happens when you answer to those, you do general denials. So we have put in some general denials to some of the allegations that are being made, and I think it's being portrayed that that is saying that the county is not going to be responsible at all for those liabilities. So I think that's what's happening when there's a paragraph that says the county will be the other side alleges that the county will be responsible for such and such a liability to such and such an extent, there may be something worded in that paragraph that we don't agree with, so we just deny the whole paragraph. That doesn't mean that we're denying complete liability in the future for these contracts. So I just think there's a lot of playing being done with the pleadings that have been made when all the attorneys know that those are that's just legal talk and that's the way it's done. And people are trying to give literal interpretations to things, and I think that's twisting the intent of the county.
Thank you. It is perhaps somewhat understandable that people with contracts now would be nervous about what their future will be. The other thing is that I'm sorry Mr. Cortez wasn't at the airport board meeting yesterday, because it was quite interesting. For the first time I paid this out again as something that is, I think, implicit in the arrangements that are made, and how it will be dealt with is going to be a real burden on those new appointments.
Thank you, Elizabeth. Looks like that's it. I want to continue a practice Betty had of having a thought for the day, but my calendar is a little bit different for January 19th. Mine has a prayer, and then it has a thought for the day. It says, Dear Lord, when my days seem to be filled with petty annoyances, help me to set them aside and separate them from the important things. So that's for everybody here today. And then the thought for the day, behind every successful man is a woman with nothing to wear. So I would like to make a motion. You know, you're always going places, and I don't have anything to wear. Make a motion to move into executive session as outlined.
Second.
Thank you.
Ms. Kowski?
Aye.
Ms. Blair? Aye. Mr. Kayla?
Aye.
Unless otherwise announced, meetings are held Thursday mornings at 9:30 at the Lorain County Administration Building, 226 Middle Avenue, 4th floor, downtown Elyria. These are public meetings, and as always, you are invited to attend.
As gas prices continue to soar, let Lorain County Transit make it easier on your wallet. Our 14 fixed routes can get you to work, school, shopping, or even Cleveland with convenient daily schedules. Or for a few dollars more, schedule a convenient pickup time with our curb-to-curb dial-a-ride program or community connector services. All our vehicles are handicapped accessible and many have bike racks. Call our office today to learn more. Remember, Lorain County Transit is no pain in the gas.
Welcome to Golden Acres, Lorain County's best kept secret. In the heart of Lorain County, we are nestled on 22 acres of rolling hills in Amherst Township. Our rural-like setting is centrally located for everyone's convenience.
Since 1997, when the Golden Acres tax levy was voluntarily abandoned, the home has been self-sufficient. We currently serve private pay and Medicaid residents who are in the process of becoming a Medicare skilled nursing facility, which will enable us to provide a wider range of service to the residents of Lorain County.
Serving Lorain County for over 100 years, Golden Acres will continue to strive to provide the highest possible degree of health, social interaction, and emotional well-being. While no facility could take the place of your loved ones at home, our staff, residents, and their families will strive to make them feel at home and a welcome part of our facility.
In 1787, the Continental Congress organized the lands from the Ohio River to the Mississippi into the Northwest Territories. In 1803, the first of these territories to become a state was Ohio. Ohio was in turn divided into various land grants, including the Connecticut Western Reserve in the northeast corner of the state. The Western Reserve included the area that is today Lorain County. As Ohio gradually increased its counties to the present 88, the land we know as Lorain County went through several changes. Until 1810, the area was split between Geauga and Portage counties. When the area was being organized into Lorain County in 1822, it was created out of land from Huron, Cuyahoga, and Medina counties. At the time of its birth, Lorain County included Olmsted Township, now in Cuyahoga County, Spencer and Homer Townships, now in Medina County, and Troy and Sullivan Townships, now in Ashland County. This map illustrates the county as it appeared at the time of Ohio's centennial, and although some of the townships have been absorbed by incorporation, it also represents the shape of Lorain County today. Let's take a brief historical look at each of Lorain County's 21 townships. In 1807, the Calvin Hoadley and Herman Bronson families of Waterbury, Connecticut, began the settlement of Columbia. After a 3-month trek, the pioneers arrived in their new homeland in time to celebrate Christmas. The Bronsons, including their 7-month-old son, began that winter sheltered by their overturned bobsled wagon, converted into a frontier lean-to. The mouth of the Black River also saw the beginning of its first settlement in 1807, when Azariah Beebe established a trading post for Nathan Perry. This area, which 20 years earlier had seen a short-lived Moravian mission, would gradually grow into the village of Charleston in the township called Black River. Years later, this township would be removed from county maps because of the incorporation of the city of Lorain. Charleston adopted the county's name of Lorain when the city was incorporated in 1874. The dramatic growth of the city was spurred on by the expanding fishing and shipbuilding industries. In 1894, when Tom Johnson brought his steel mill to town, Lorain's destiny to be the county's largest city was assured. In 1813, the township of Ridgeville was officially organized. 3 years earlier, members of the Beebe, Terrell, and Root families had established this new settlement they called Rootstown. The change to Ridgeville was decided upon to indicate the sand ridges that passed through the area and provided transportation routes and fertile farmland. The area around the intersection of Butternut Ridge and Roots Road, first called Briggs Corner, was by 1880 known as Fields Corners and was the site of the town's water well. With the growth of the city of North Ridgeville, the township of Ridgeville was incorporated out of existence. In 1810, Silas